Landmines and jellyfish, welcome back to Knives, I guess, and how you doing? I hope you're doing good, and I hope you're having a great day. But, do me a favor and hit that like button to the terrorists win, and on a recent live stream we went in on, the Spyderco Manix 2 Lightweight in 15V. Now, let's take a look at what we're holding, because it'll bother you if I don't. And you know I love you. So, first things first and most importantly, the pocket clip is tip up, which is the Lord's carry. We have got the FRN scales here. We have got a thumb hole. Let's flick the hole. We have got a little over 3 inches of 15V steel, and we are on Spyderco's ball bearing lock. Okay, and she do centrifugal open. Okay, so if you weren't here for it, I carried this one for like 2 months straight because I was off of YouTube for a little while. Just stuff happened. And I liked carrying it. I'm not a huge fan of the ball bearing lock. Like I could take it or leave it. I prefer a regular axis lock, but the ball bearing lock works just fine. But you know, other than that, solid unit, really solid unit. I could carry this every day for a year and be fine. You know, it's definitely not my favorite ever, but it's still pretty good. So we went in on our live stream, and of course this was a gift from a friend who wanted to see me suffer through edge retention testing on it. You sick bastard, I love you. So that's why we have it. Trust me, I didn't have the money in pocket to buy a Spyderco Manix 2 Lightweight in 15V, but this was a gift from a friend, and we did our edge retention testing on it. So before we get into how the factory edge did, let's go ahead and go out to the car hole, and I'll show you the pile of cardboard we made on the factory edge. Here you go. Alright folks, welcome back to the car hole as it were, and here we have the pile of cardboard made by the factory edge on the Spyderco Manix 2 Lightweight in 15V steel. Not too shabby. Okay, now that you've seen that, that's pretty decent. It's not a gigantic pile. It's certainly not quite what I had hoped for, but it's not too shabby. As I had mentioned in the car hole, not too shabby. It did okay. You know, we pushed it pretty hard through some much tougher cardboard than we normally use, just because that's what I brought home from work. But we pushed it pretty hard. The pile, like that was 2.5 boxes, 2 boxes of shredded cardboard, which seems to be pretty good for how things are going lately, but you know, it did okay. So here's the results on that and the written down timeline of events. Now, I was told this has similar carbides to Rex 121, which the Rex 121 was definitely screwing with the readings on the electronic edge sharpness tester, so take that with a grain of salt. But when we started, we were at a 322 on the edge sharpness tester, and we stropped it and went down to 204. So we go for an hour. You know, we cut for an hour, and we get a 359 in the center here. At the 2 hour mark, we got a 449 in the center. Now, I stopped and I broke out the microscope, and under 120x magnification, I didn't see any carbides poking out. It was still a smooth edge. I could see a little bit of damage from the amount of cutting we were doing, but I didn't see the carbides. On Rex 121, I did see the carbides. At about 2.5 hours, I started seeing a hot spot right in here and a little bit of hot spotting here. But we kept going, and at the 3 hour mark, we hit a 508 in the center. We scoped it. We did the microscope, still saw a smooth edge. At 4 hour, we hit a 597 in the center, but it was still cutting pretty clean, so we kept going. And then at 5.5 hours, we hit a 587 and a 528 in the center, and we called it toast because we were starting to get a bunch of cuts that looked like this right here. That is definitely a roached out edge. So we stopped and we sharpened up to 400 grit, and we got her to a 208 on the edge sharpness tester, and we broke out the 1-inch hemp rope or Cecil rope or whatever you want to call it. We broke out the 1-inch rope, and we got 16 cuts. We got 16 cuts in that before my ancestors said, "That's enough, my child." Now, I figured out how to standardize that. I have figured out how to standardize it so that we have something more reliable to go on, like the same data point between blades. We're going to cut 10 times. If it makes it through all 10 cuts, we'll see how many points we lost. I did not check to see how many points I lost after I did those 16 cuts, so I don't really have a whole lot to offer for you there. But let's go back out to the car hole, and let me show you the pile that we made off of the new edge. Now, I did what you're not supposed to do if memory serves. We did 17 degrees per side like we always do. We have got a nice fat bevel, but we took it up to 3,000 grit just to see what would happen. just to see what would happen. You're not supposed to do that with these high carbide steels. You're supposed to keep it around 600 or 800 grit tops. But we went to 3,000 grit. So we'll go out to the car hole, and I'll show you the pile made on the new edge that we put on it. So here you go. Folks, we find ourselves back in the car hole once again, and here's the pile of cardboard made by the Manix 2 Lightweight and 15V with the 17 degrees per side edge, and we did something you're not supposed to do and took it up to like 3,000 grit. So let's go back to the table and we'll get into that. All right. And you guys saw, like, it was about the same size as the first pile, which is interesting. We normally see some kind of change in the amount of cardboard generated by a 17 degree per side edge. But the last three times we did, we've gotten nearly the exact same size pile of cardboard. I don't understand it. But we started at a 208 on the edge tester, and after an hour we hit a 451 in the center. 2 hours, we hit a 550 in the center, and I microscoped it, and you could see little bitty tiny carbides sticking out. You could finally see them. They were much smaller than the carbides that showed up in the Rex 121, but you could see the little tiny microserration on the edge, and you could feel it in the cuts. So we ended up having to switch to a manually loaded test clip on the sharpness tester, so take everything with a grain of salt from here on out, but we stopped at the 3 hour mark, and we found a 595 in the center. And then at the 4 hour mark, we started getting these cuts right here, and we called it toast. That of course, as you know, is a devastated edge. If I remember right, and I didn't write it down, like you can see, we stopped right here at 564. At the 4 hour mark, I was tired and apparently not thinking straight, but I do believe we sharpened it. So let's get some paper out. Are you paper? Do you count? So we did sharpen it. I'm not sure what we got it down to, but let's break out the electronic edge sharpness tester kindly provided by you guys through your channel memberships, your super chat donations, what have you. Thank you for that. I'll always be grateful for the support. Let's see what we got. And of course, how this thing works, if you haven't seen one before by some odd miracle, is it measures the number of grams of force it takes to cut through the wire on this calibrated test clip. The lower the number, the better. Let's see what we did. And of course, again, with the carbides poking out, because I think we stopped around 600 or 800 grit on this one, like we did what you're supposed to. Stopping at a lower grit, it lets the carbides hide in the steel, so you get an overall smoother edge until you wear some of the steel away. Is the best way to explain it. I can't articulate my thought quite properly, but that's the best way I can think of to explain it. 160. Okay, so on a carbide steel like that, a high carbide steel like that, a 160 is a pretty good number. Y'all saw how well it cut. It cut that paper. So that 160 is pretty good. So, there we go. Sorry, I failed the centrifugal open like 3 times in a row, and I'm leaving that in. But, yeah, aside from some, stupid phone call, but, you know, aside from a little bit of a hot spot showing up right here, this thing did great. I will say, as far as extended, continuous, repeated cuts, the ball bearing lock is a lot kinder to the hand than the compression lock is. The compression lock chewed my hand up so bad. That was the compression lock on the Rex 121 Spyderco Sage 5 lightweight. So, all in all, it's a real solid unit. I like the 15V. I saw where it's supposed to be real hard to sharpen up, but it didn't give me any issues there. It did great. It did good on the edge retention testing. It cut up quite a bit of cardboard. It went for a long time before the edge was shot. I can't find a whole lot to argue with this thing. A whole lot to argue about. So, yeah. That's what happened with this thing during Cardboard Slayer, and you know I love sharing with you what happened during Cardboard Slayer. So, all that being said, thanks for looking at my crap. Subscribers, you guys are awesome. Y'all keep coming in. I appreciate you so much. If you haven't subscribed, please do. We got live streams, regular videos. There's plenty of activities. Comments, I love some feedback. Let me know what you think about this thing or anything else. And all that being said, y'all have a nice day.